Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. Hide your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease up your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to Iron on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 276. I used to watch a show, The Tick. I think it was pretty underrated.
Pardon the interruption. That was the worst one. Just start over.
I'm not starting over, no.
Start over.
Nope.
Come on. We're losing viewership and membership.
You remember when we used to do the
listenership?
show and I would overthink it, and then we would just do like a whole episode, and then we'd be like, this sucks.
Let's
and then
get
we
back
just
to
wouldn't
that.
Put it on the internet at all. That sucks.
Are we recording today?
Probably shouldn't have said the F word 30 seconds in.
I didn't even hear it. Hopefully no one else did either.
How are you?
Oh, this is one of the best days of my life.
Why?
Because we're indoors. It's cold outside.
It's cold inside, actually.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, it's only going up to 50 degrees in my house today.
Yep, that's a
So
problem.
we got a little space heater here, and we're going to try to... this reminds me of when I lived with Hobo Joe in the dumpster.
Boy.
We had to huddle together for warmth, and I think maybe you and I are going to have to do the same.
No, that's fine. The doctor said I couldn't huddle with anybody until my stitches are out of my back, so...
I'll take them out.
That's fine.
You know I've taken stitches out before.
Nope, I'll just wait till Friday when they come out.
All right, so let's talk about this right off the bat. You had surgery.
I had my first surgery.
Okay, and
Yes.
have you talked about this before
Not
on last week's podcast?
Not in depth, no.
Okay, well, let's go, baby.
No, I recorded last week's episode before I had the surgery because I didn't know how
If you were going to live.
bad. Well, I mean, yeah, there was concern.
Did they send you a letter beforehand that was like, hey, you may want to talk with your loved ones before?
No, they did not do that like they did for you.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like trying to get you or something.
Yeah.
Which is why they're like, well, so if it happens, we already told them we're.
Well, I think they were
basically
trying to get
murdering
you.
them.
They told you had to pay first, right?
Yeah, they tried to make me pay $4,000 up front, and then day of, it was never even mentioned.
Yeah.
Because had it been mentioned at all, I would have been like, nope.
Yeah,
Have a great
I was
day.
going to tell you, but there was plenty of people commenting to you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well,
So
it's all a work, brother.
Hannah took me up there, and also I want to point out that they told me when this was originally scheduled, you got to get there 2 hours early. So when they called me on that Friday before the surgery on January 6th, they said, okay, your surgery's scheduled for 9:30. And I was like, cool. So we got up at 6 a.m. and Hannah was running behind, and so we weren't going to get there until like 8. So she said, you should probably call them and say you're not going to be there 2 hours early. You're going to be a little late because there was like she was behind and it was snowing bad. And so I called them. They said, yeah, we said 9:30 for you to be here. Your surgery's not till 11:30. And I was like, okay, we probably should clarify that.
Yeah.
That like you're not giving me the 2 hours early time. The surgery time would be at this time. Come in 2 hours early. So
Yeah,
that was
2 hours
confusing.
seems like a very long time.
Well, imagine if you were
To
3.5
wait.
hours early
Yeah.
because they didn't tell you properly.
Yeah.
But anyways, hung out.
And then why were you guys running late?
Because of the snow, and
Oh,
Hannah was.
okay.
I can't even remember what she was doing at this point.
Okay,
but
because
we
I was
were
going to say,
late.
it sounds like this is a pretty important thing. You'd probably want to be there on time. Okay, go ahead.
You think? And so we got there, and it was fine. And I don't know, pretty quick process. They got me back there. They started pumping the medicine through my IV. at one point, and
how'd that feel?
I didn't even really know what was happening. Like, they didn't even tell me that it was the actual medicine. They're like, we're just going to give something to relax you before we give you the actual medicine. So they just lied to me. And so then they started wheeling me to another room, and they were just kind of having a little chit-chat with me, talking about pro wrestling. And next thing I know, I was awake.
Yeah.
And the surgery was over.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That's always my favorite.
Yeah.
Just like not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Falling to sleep. They usually ask me like about my tattoos. Mm-hmm. So what's this tattoo? Well, I got the...
Yeah, I can't even tell you the last moment specifically. Just I know I was going through a hallway on the bed, and then I was in the bed in a room, and I was fine. Didn't feel anything for the first day. The cut that they made, which was into my skin and underneath my muscle, was, I would say, it's probably about 2 inches wide on my back, and it's in a real awkward place to where it's just, it's hard to sleep. They still don't want me getting it wet at all, so I had to avoid a shower for 48 hours. Then when I was in the shower, still don't try to get my back wet or anything, and constant checking to make sure it's not like pulsating brown goo out of it and stuff. Everything's been fine. 2 days later, results came back about what it was, and it was just
benign tumor?
Yeah, it was nothing. There's no cancer or anything like that, so that's cool.
Good.
And it just hurts, and it's awkward, and I think there's a lot of things going on in my mind, but I just feel like being down with the shoulder injury for the last couple months, and then with the timing of the surgery, set me back to get back in the gym a couple weeks, and I've just been in my own head over the weekend trying to come up with new content for you guys, and just not having, frankly, just having a bunch of anxiety and not being able to do much of anything. And I can't wait until these stitches come out Friday and I can get back to lifting for the first time in 2 months. Haven't worked out since Thanksgiving, so I'm dying here. And,
dude, I was telling you that, a month ago, that I was feeling that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much anxiety. Working out is like the best thing for us.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to. I think I can start up again now. I think I'm all clear with everything. I got the final test result I guess it would be last week now. But yeah, so I'm all clear and good to go. You're all clear and good to go. We need to go.
Well, the only thing that I need with my workouts is my supplements from TNT-health.com, which...
Oh, well, I have a good friend, if you want to know his name.
Mike? Is it Mike at TNT Health?
Yeah, you know him?
I know. Yeah, it's the same guy. He sponsors the show.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, that works out.
It's a nice segue into this little plug here, because I do, every day, use the creatine from TNT Health. I use the glutamine, usually for post-workouts, but that's been sitting dormant because I'm not working out. I have used it a couple times because I was doing a bunch of arm and shoulder exercise for my torn labrum. So just so I'm not that sore, I was using the glutamine from time to time. I got the organic vanilla protein, which goes good with anything. And there's a bunch of supplements that you can get on TNT-health.com. Pro-hormone stuff, pre-workout stuff, post-workout stuff. Aaron, you're going to be getting on a strict regimen again here soon with Mike.
Yes, I need to.
And, of course, Mike always goes above and beyond the call of duty. He's not like those folks at GNC and Vitamin Shop where they try to oversell you items you don't need. He wants you to get a couple things that you might want to try to invest in. And then on top of that, he's not only going to tell you how to do it properly, but he's going to help you track your macros, your overall calories. He's going to let you know where you want to go based on the goals that you want to hit. And he knows you're not perfect. He doesn't expect 100% results. He's only looking for 70 to 80% results because you're a human being. You're going to mess up, and that's okay. Mike's okay with that. So whether you're on your health and wellness journey right now or you're just getting started, check out TNT-health.com. It's completely free to look, but if you buy anything, you can save 10% with our promo code IRONON. That's IRONON, IRONON. Save 10%. So do yourself a favor, TNT-health.com, because at TNT Health, it's about your health today, not tomorrow. But today on the show, before we go to some questions and some couple things that we probably missed out on from the last couple weeks because we weren't together, later on the show, we're going to do part 2 of the interview with Josh Prohibition. I don't suppose you checked out the interview from last.
It was fantastic.
Was it?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part from the interview
Josh,
that you
a lot of
definitely
times
listened to?
said, "Here's the thing."
No, that's a. You might have watched a wrestling promo that Josh said. He doesn't say that in real life.
No.
No. I just again want to rub it in your face that you missed out on a wonderful dinner.
Yeah.
The biggest pork chop I've ever had in my life, and in part 1 of the interview, I learned a lot of stuff about Josh Prohibition that I did not know. If you guys didn't listen to last week's episode, go back and check it out.
Well, here's the shitty thing about it for me, was that was my get.
Yeah, you set it up.
I know, and then for whatever reason we couldn't do the first time we had scheduled. I think you had something going on.
We ended up going to Detroit.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. And
then we got back from Detroit, and he was like, "Yeah, we can do this on Thursday," and I was all gung ho, and then a table broke at work.
Mm-hmm.
Not like what I'm usually used to when a table breaks.
Sure.
Usually those bumps are easier.
Yeah.
But this was not okay, and I threw my back out, and then I started to feel like maybe I could tough it out, and then I came home and tested positive for COVID, so I didn't think you guys wanted it.
No, we didn't. But
I tend to get sick a lot at my normal day job. Do you ever feel that way? Because you're around a lot of like drug addicts, right?
Yeah, I am. But you know what? I have an incredible immune system, and usually, when I get sick, it's like I start to get sick, and I know like time for me to go to bed.
Yeah.
Eat some chicken noodle soup. As soon as I take a nap
Yeah.
or go to sleep for the night, I wake up the next day and I'm usually 90% okay.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
I mentioned this before on the show. Have not thrown up since I was 18.
Yeah.
That's 20 years.
I went for a long time until I think it was really when I started going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
That's when I started throwing up. So it wasn't even because of like sickness, like a physical sickness or whatever. I guess that is a physical sickness.
Yeah. But so last week on the show, in the first part, Josh and I talked about the interview ended with him basically talking about his time on the Jenny Jones show, which never aired, but also, which I didn't realize, he was on Oprah and had like a confrontation with Oprah, which was interesting. So he goes into depth about that, and this is because of the backyard wrestling stuff, of course, but the interview culminates with, and I won't spoil it for those of you that didn't listen to it last week, but a scary situation, a deadly situation that ends up occurring while wrestling in the backyard with one of his family members, and I had no idea the trauma that Josh went through that led him to saying to himself, "I want to be a professional wrestler." And in this second part of the story, he's going to go into depth about finding that formal training with JT Lightning, his relationship with JT, his three-way dance with Johnny Gargano and M-Dogg Matt Cross from PWO Resolution 4, some other stuff, but most importantly and most recently, his final professional wrestling match, which occurred on May of 2024 at AIW. It's a great interview. You're going to love it. Definitely go back and listen to last week if you haven't already. Full interview's been up for like 2 or 3 weeks over on patreon.com/IronWrestling, where you can get a buttload of bonus content starting at just $3. In fact, we're going to do a bonus Q&A because we missed it a couple weeks ago, and we want everybody that listens on iTunes, Spotify, wherever they download podcasts to listen to this. And so, to listen to this bonus episode over on Patreon, this week, usually it's going to cost you $3. This time, $1. $1 this week for this episode, and maybe it'll hook you a little bit, and maybe you'll sign up for the $3 tier. Who knows? I don't know what could happen. You might even go up to the $5 tier where you get bonus videos, because starting this week, we're also going to be doing a bonus Patreon podcast episode about pro wrestling magazines, because I've been sitting on these bad boys for a while. We're going to do a YouTube video where you'll get the extended cut of that video, maybe even some outtakes, and it's going to be a new series of videos from the pages of a pro wrestling magazine. So you're going to want to check that out, patreon.com/IronWrestling. Of course, hey, if you got the George, not the George Animal Steel package. He's a fraud. He's a fake. He's a phony.
Yeah, you want that Howard.
Howard Animal Steel package, $25 and up. If you've been subscribed for more than 2 months, you're going to specifically get the December package, which we will finally have finalized, hopefully this week. The big design we've been working on that you will receive before the end of January, God willing. And, of course, you have another package coming in March because we're so far behind. But it's good stuff. It's worth the investment. We appreciate your investment. Patreon.com/Iron on Wrestling. If you don't want to sign up for Patreon, that's fine. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you download podcasts. Leave a comment. Leave a 5-star review. It creates visibility for the podcast. And make sure to follow us on social media at Iron on Wrestling.
Did you hear Josh Prohibition mentioned on WWE SmackDown right before you went over to his house and did the interview?
It was after.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes I say before, but I really mean after.
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right,
I get those things confused. It's probably
because I texted him while I was watching SmackDown last week, and I said, you must have been fresh in Johnny's mind, because I had told Johnny that I was going over to talk to Josh because you and M-Dogg just got name dropped on SmackDown. He's like, what, really? Because he doesn't watch week to week, and he was humbled. He was flattered, and he deserves it. You know what I mean? And
that was Corey Graves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and coincidentally, he got demoted to NXT right after that. I don't know if that correlates at all, or
I don't know if it's demoted. What are you going to do when you have so many good commentators?
It's not demoted.
Like, you and I would never even stand a chance anymore.
We never did stand a chance.
I think I did.
What?
I could have been on SmackDown or NXT or something. I'm fucking good.
Yeah.
I'm better than the best. No. Okay. But yeah, they're really good, and that was nice that he got that mention. I wish he would have said, Josh Prohibition, the guy who's going to be on the Iron on Wrestling podcast with Gregory Iron.
No, he probably had no idea that was a thing that was happening.
I think he did. He's a listener.
No, it's not true.
Somebody is.
Not true.
Also, while we've been saying Josh Prohibition's name, and we know that the phones and our devices listen to us, my favorite promo popped up just now on the YouTube, and it's Josh Prohibition responding to Matt Cross over 10 years ago at AIW from their feud that was leading up to, I believe, Absolution.
Don't talk about too much of what he says.
Oh, I don't want to say that. People can watch it. Maybe you can put out a link or whatever. But yeah, excellent, man. A lot of fire in that one, and I've said this before, but I always know Josh Prohibition means business when he comes and grabs me and goes, come on, let's go, get a camera. And it's like, we're going to produce promo right now. Mm-hmm. And he was on fire and ready. So that was a good thing.
One thing I want to talk about before we segue into the Josh Prohibition second part of the interview. We're obviously going to do a review because we're a little bit far behind of the debut of Raw on Netflix from last week. But I think it's important to talk about the biggest story, sadly, to come out of that show. Hulk Hogan.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say that Penta's match got cut.
No, I think more...
Because that was more sad to me.
More people are talking about that. Well, I don't find it sad. I just it's.
I thought he should have debuted in L.A.
Penta?
Yeah.
Why?
Isn't California where they had Lucha Underground?
Yeah.
I figured that would have been a really cool thing. But where are they at tonight?
No idea. But
Milwaukee,
I don't know why they released that he...
shirt already?
His merch is already on the
And they already put the
website.
graphic up last week, too.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't say it was him.
Yeah, it said Pentagon, but okay.
What?
Yeah.
When did they put that up?
Last week on Raw.
Last week it was just a silhouette.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when did they put...
I thought I saw it say Pentagon. Maybe I had a fever dream.
I think you did. So, last week, third hour of Raw, I believe it was, right before the main event, they made a decision to bring Hulk Hogan out in front of the live crowd. And I don't know if you saw the memes going around, but after the fact, I went back and watched it with the closed caption on because Netflix is going above and beyond the Call of Duty with closed caption. And the meme to come out of it was that they put on the closed caption for Hulk Hogan standing there, crowd booing. But I want to point something out. If you didn't go back and watch it with the closed caption, you're just looking at the meme going around, the comedic timing, or at the very least the unintentional comedic timing of the crowd booing closed caption was great, because if you're watching Hogan come out, which, by the way, Hogan comes out because his Real American Beer is now sponsoring WWE. WWE has a minority ownership in the Real American Beer, and so it's on the canvas and blah, blah, blah. So he's coming out to plug Raw being on Netflix and plug his beer. Immediately gets booed when he comes out. And so the caption on the screen goes, crowd, and there's like a hesitation, as if the guy typing is like, is it? They're, all right, booing. And so it made it even funnier to watch it with closed caption on. Crowd, booing. And, man, what a train wreck. And so a lot of people have their theories about potentially why he was booed, but I really think, and I want to get your feedback on it, I think it's just been a buildup of dumb stuff that Hulk Hogan has done over the years, to where people are just like, I don't even want to see you. And also, listen, as a guy that grew up liking Hulk Hogan, to be honest, his promos over the last 20 years haven't really changed that much. Like, if I had to think of a promo that stands out to me in recent memory that it didn't seem like he was phoning in and just doing his same shtick, like, he's almost like a parody of himself. You know, because, like, there's a Hulk Hogan style promo, but also Hulk Hogan used to have some cadence sometimes and, like, say some different and unique stuff, but it's always like, let's just do the 2 or 3 greatest hits of, like, shit I say, and let's not say anything important. The last time he said something that was at least slightly different and maybe had a little bit of emotion in it was when, and you can agree or disagree with this, when Mean Gene passed away.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first time where it was, like, in a long time where clearly he had an emotional connection with this guy. They shared screen time and locker rooms together over the years.
They were a tag team.
They were a tag team, Mean Gene-omania, and it was a great promo, okay? But outside of that, there aren't a lot of Hulk Hogan promos that I can tell you off the rip in the past 20 years that were anything beyond, well, let me tell you something, brother, and
him talking about the Macho Man, and even the ooh yeah, because I've heard
that
it, maybe not even
now.
in promos, but also interviews.
Like I just think it's like a buildup of, like, we know you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a political thing, because other people have pointed this out too.
Dude,
Like,
the right side wants to say, oh, the left just hates because he stands up for what's right, and then the left side was saying, oh, we hate him because he's pro-Trump, but really, not all those people there even cared about that, I don't think.
It's because he's a bullshitter.
Yeah. I think everybody's just sick of him, and I think one side really likes him because he's on their side, and the other side dislikes him because he's not on their side, and everybody in the middle just dislikes him because we're tired of hearing all that crap, and I don't really care. You've been conflicted with cheering for a racist.
Listen,
you were going to sell your posters.
I still think about it on a daily basis. I have a pretty decent collection of Hulk Hogan stuff, and it's embarrassing. And look, I think I just talked about it on Patreon. I didn't even talk about it publicly. Like, I never even posted the picture. I went to meet him when he came to Cleveland to sell his beer. Yeah. Me, a straight edge guy, I went and bought the beer from him so that I can get
two.
I bought one for you as well. He autographed them, and I took a photo with him. And I've never shared it because I'm embarrassed that I went to meet him, because there's a conflict within me. Like the child who grew up on the character Hulk Hogan, it was like one of the first real life superheroes that I could get behind, that like made me think that everything was going to be okay despite the terrible shit in my life. And there was other people in wrestling, there were other people in pop culture that I would find inspiration in like that. But Hogan was like my guy. And it just sucks because we often talk about on the show trying to separate the art from the artist. For whatever reason, maybe because like the emotional investment it's been such a long relationship that this is like the hardest thing that I've had to do to try to separate the two, because I don't want to get political, but like he's so for so many things that I'm against, and he said so much dumb shit that we openly make fun of. Like, we know every time Hogan or Terry Bollea or whatever he's considering himself, depending on the time that he talks and how bad he fucks up, like what he wants to identify himself as, he makes himself look dumber and stupider. And I think this generation that didn't grow up on Hulk Hogan, they don't give a fuck about him.
Yeah.
There's nothing to invest in. They just think, who is this? Like, we talk about it all the time. Like, what if someone with hot dog colored skin and a mustache and a skullet debuted on Raw and started talking the way Hulk Hogan does this Monday? People will be like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
Okay? I think that's how kids look at Hulk Hogan. Like, this is what people liked in the 80s and 90s? This fucking clown?
Yeah.
It's sad. It's embarrassing, and it sucks. And like,
his arms did not look good.
They didn't, but also
They're still big.
he's 71.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But like now it's time to start wearing maybe sleeves or something.
Yeah, probably. He's probably got to go to the T-shirt. But like, look, let's not pretend this was just a Monday thing.
Yeah.
One of his first times back was the 2021 Hall of Fame when he inducted Brutus the Barber. I was in that crowd.
Yeah.
He was booed in that crowd.
Yeah.
Not overwhelmingly booed, but there was definitely boos, okay? WrestleMania 37, where he dressed like a pirate.
With Titus?
Titus O'Neil.
Yeah, yeah.
He was booed.
Okay. Yeah.
This isn't a thing that's just been like, well, all of a sudden it's happening because he backed Trump.
Right.
Like, people don't want to see this guy anymore. And did you see that they're supposedly thinking like either they're going to get someone else to endorse the beer on WWE television, or I don't know if this is real, but it's been going around that they're thinking about turning Hulk Hogan heel.
Because they have him set up for Saturday night's main event, and if he comes out in the black and white.
Okay, first of all, that doesn't.
Somebody was saying he should have came out as Hollywood Hogan. Well, you were in L.A. You were in Hollywood.
Yeah, but like it's
not going to work for him. I don't think
both things are corny. Like the Hollywood Hogan thing only worked because he was surrounded with Nash
with
and
cool
Hall.
guys.
Like if take them out of the equation.
Take them out of the equation, and he comes out and starts calling himself the Woodman.
Yeah, Woody. He called himself Woody.
Yeah, Woody.
Like he was not cool. He was cool by association. And look, again, let's pretend the rest of the NWO doesn't exist. Watch Hulk Hogan matches from 96 through 99 in a vacuum when he's in the NWO, and they're not good. They're not good matches. Like, his matches with the Giant are some of the worst professional wrestling matches you ever see from a major promotion ever.
The WCW run was not good.
No.
Like, maybe Vader was an okay match, but he no-sold the powerbomb.
Yeah, he killed that.
He killed Vader. He killed Flair. Flair had to come out dressed as a woman. And
they made Flair retire.
Yeah. And then so those are probably the only two sets of matches where like you could have got something out of them.
Wait, before you even talk about that, because you mentioned it, Flair, he's a fucking embarrassment too.
Yeah.
Like, and like this
these
sucks
guys
that,
both need to go away and stay gone.
And it sucks too because like our generation, it's like if someone like your kids, they go to you like, who were some of your favorites as a kid?
Yeah.
And you go Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, you look like a clown.
Yeah.
You look like a fucking goof because Hulk Hogan is coming out here fucking supporting Donald Trump and barely being able to rip his shirt off and lying all the time. Ric Flair just lies all the time. He posts freaking text messages about from a pedophile wanting to bury Kerry Silken, who only is asking for the $41,000 that he gave Ric Flair for a series of meet and greets and appearances back in like the 2010s that Ric Flair no-showed.
Yeah.
And so he's having a pedophile back him.
Yep.
Like and like, I mean, it's just, I don't even know. Continue with the Hulk Hogan though.
Oh, okay. So he moves on to a feud with Beefcake.
Yeah.
Also, the Shark Attack.
The Shark Attack, yeah.
kind of Kevin Sullivan, but they never really had matches because I don't think Sullivan was big enough for Hogan.
Yeah.
So instead, they have Kamala.
He had to beat the whole Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah, and then all 6 of them in a cage or something, plus Ming and the Barbarian
And the Four Horsemen.
Yeah,
And
Ric
Zeus.
Flair, Arn Anderson, Zeus, Jeep Swenson,
Yeah, it's so
Brian Pillman.
No, Pillman wasn't in that.
Right, he no-showed or whatever.
Exactly, because Pillman knew the deal, right?
So then you move on from that, and he has what's arguably called the worst match of all time, Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior 2.
Dude.
And then the worst cage match of all time, which is Hogan and Piper in a cage.
Yep.
2.
Halloween Havoc 97,
Yeah.
which is only remembered, I think, for Macho Man's ridiculous jump from the top of that cage, because that cage was high as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts. So, yeah, also, now that you mention that.
We didn't even get to the New Blood in the Millionaires Club yet.
Hey, you know what?
Didn't you just send me something?
Did I send you something? I don't think I did.
Either you or Eric sent me when Hogan came out with the FUNB jacket on, and he hit maybe Billy Kidman or somebody with the worst chair shot in professional
It's
wrestling.
Conan.
Conan
that hits with the chair. I've seen that before. But, hey, also, taking that out, I'll argue that the Hulk Hogan FUNB had potential to be a good revival of Hulk Hogan, at least for a few weeks there. I will argue that, and that's for another podcast. There's a whole podcast about Hulk Hogan, which actually might turn out to be what we talk about when we talk about the July 1993 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated in depth over on patreon.com/Iron Wrestling. Make sure, if you're not on Patreon, to check out the in-depth podcast about that. Check out the YouTube video where we'll be posting like a brief synopsis of some of the highlights from that magazine, and maybe it'll persuade you to go over to the Patreon and listen to the full deal. But yeah, Hulk, it's time to go away, man. Brother, Jack, dude.
I used to get so hyped off of that because you were waiting for him to say his first brother.
Yeah.
And I remember friends counting during Nitro.
Yeah.
All right, I got to bet. I'll say he's going to say brother 13 times. Oh, no, you're way too low. He's going to hit at least 20, and then...
It's just like, I can't even, like his...
But that's not even funny anymore, or cool, or...
It's just bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad. Like
it's sad, too, because like you said, for me, I was in an abusive home, and all I looked forward to was Hulk Hogan, and maybe one day Hulk Hogan would read the letter that I sent him to the home offices of the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah.
And then come to my house and save the day.
Yeah. One of the best moments of my life was when my grandma wrote into the... Get Well Hulk campaign during the Earthquake feud, and I got that postcard in the mail because I was too young to understand that that Hulk Hogan did not send me that postcard directly. It was sent from the WWF, but I thought, based on how it was written, like, thank you, Hulkamaniac, for your support, I thought Hulk Hogan wrote that specifically to me before his return at SummerSlam 1990, and I was fucking pumped.
In a stinker of a match.
It wasn't his worst match, but it
no,
definitely wasn't
but
his best.
I mean, we were talking about. I mean, and don't even let me get into that Andre the Giant WrestleMania 3 match.
Well,
that thing sucked.
That's not a good match at all. WrestleMania 3 is not good at all, if we're being honest. I mean, it did change the landscape of the business. And,
I think 2 good matches.
Piper and
Piper and Adrian Adonis is my favorite match on the show.
Macho.
And then everybody else likes the Steamboat Macho, which is good, but
it's like one last thing. Him name dropping Macho, and who else did he name drop? Macho Man and
Andre the Giant.
Yeah, they got bigger boos because they're like, no, motherfucker, we know you're just saying their names.
People are way hip to his game now,
dude. It's pathetic. Like, he's just one of those guys that, like, again, because he was surrounded by cool people when he became black and white in '96.
Yeah.
It gave us the idea and the perception, like, oh, you know what? Hulk Hogan has changed with the times, right?
Right.
But again, if he's not surrounded by Nash and Hall, he just looks like an idiot, like he was when he was doing his. Go watch The Dark Side of Hulkamania.
Yeah.
It's not that much different a year earlier when he shaves his mustache off and he's wearing black and white. Honestly, he's corny.
I'll tell you when else he was corny, and I think maybe what started it all for people to get smart to it was when X-Pac showed up in WWE as part of DX.
Oh, yeah.
And he cut that promo. X-Pac, not known for his promos,
No.
comes out there and says, Hulk Hogan, you can't cut the mustard.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shit, now it's on. Shit's on.
Bischoff has his head so far up Hogan's ass and
Yeah.
all this stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. We could dig deeper into this when we talk about the magazine.
Yeah, let's do it.
But let's leave it at this.
Well, let's
and
leave it.
Hey, give us your thoughts on the Hulk Hogan segment from Raw on Netflix. And hey, even if you're not going to listen to the Patreon bonus episode on the Netflix review, let us know what you thought of their debut on Netflix. Are you going to watch Raw going forward on Netflix, or is it something that you're not going to pay for just because WWE's on the streaming service? Let us know in the comments below, wherever you're listening, social media. What did you like? What did you dislike? And
Also, let us know who your favorite shiny was in Fashion Week this
No,
week.
don't do that.
For Pokemon Go. I know Eric is listening, and Sean Flash Robbins as well. Tell me, did you like the shiny frou-frou?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he's like a white alpaca, but his shiny version is black. So there you go, brother. I'm sure you would like that one. I'd like to put an alpaca on my podcasting couch right now, do a little interview.
I feel like you're not allowed to say that. But hey, what we are allowed to say is that we're going to have an interview with Josh Prohibition right after this commercial break here on Iron on Wrestling. Is that a transition?
Yeah, that's like when ECW would go to commercials.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you going to do the Pulp Fiction theme in the background?
I don't know the rest of it.
Okay. Really?
I do, but it's a lot.
I remember, real quick before we actually do this commercial, Barry Sagittarius at Wasp.
Yeah.
He had me and Matt Justice film one of our promos for a Wasp show. Wasp stands for Wrestling All-Star Promotions. It was filmed in the same building that we would do Cleveland All-Pro Wrestling shows in Turner's Hall. And he said, yeah, guys, I got a great idea. In the background, I'm going to put Pulp Fiction music over this. It's going to be really cool for like the TV thing that we're doing. We're going to be on public access.
That's pretty good, Barry Sagittarius.
Yeah, well, it's not that hard. He's a dork. And I remember thinking, so you're just stealing from ECW? We're not that far removed. All right, well, people are going to know. But anyways, hey. What?
Oh, I was going to tell you. When I think of that song, it makes me think of there was a time me and friend of the show, Tiger Rudo, were on our way back from some indie show. Not wrestling show, but like a concert in a rundown little hall, maybe some bar or something. Mm-hmm. We were driving back, and there was black ice on the road, and he was driving my car, and we spun, and we were doing 360. We were in North Royalton, and we were on the overpass. And we hit the median and then went over, and the car was tipping over the edge of the highway there. And we had to jump out. He had to get out his door, and then I had to get out the door, his door also, because if we would have went my way, we would have tipped and fell, I think.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Anyway, that was what was playing in the vehicle. So sometimes it's hard for me to listen to that song and not get, a little choked up.
Well, do you also get choked up because you think to yourself, like, wow, that was the first and last time I was ever over anything?
Yeah.
Really? That's the way you're going to respond to that? Fuck you.
Well, I shouldn't sell your jokes, especially if they're not funny. Hey, let's go back to that rhyme you wanted to do. Oh, this is 266. Me, Greg, like to pick up sticks. Whatever you said earlier. It was terrible. An embarrassment to podcasting you are.
I feel like our good buddy Juan Ortiz likes my rhymes, and I like his designs. Oh, that
Whoa!
kind of rhyme.
I like it. Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, you
son
were
of a bitch?
unconventional. That's the Greg I've been looking for.
Hey,
I had to
listen.
pull the hardcore out of you.
I'm not spoiling anything, but I will say that if you're in the Animal Steel package tier, that this month you may or may not be getting some sort of item that you can wear on your body that involves clouds and fishing poles and alpacas that may or may not sniff your mustache for $5, and who knows what else they might do for the right amount of cash.
Dude, are you serious right now?
I'm not lying. It's all designed by Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs, who's been in the business for 20 years, and he hasn't just made designs for us. He's done it for prominent people within all the major federations, WWE, AEW, TNA.
ECW?
No, I think that was before his time, but New Japan Pro Wrestling. He might have done something for someone that works the indies for ECWA. I can't confirm that. Hey, he's done designs for Penta, who's debuting on Raw this week. So
we don't know for sure.
They fucking drop merch on the website, you idiot. Juan Ortiz is not just doing designs for these rich athletes within wrestling federations. He can also do a design for you, a logo for you, something for yourself, a friend, a family member, whoever you want, and he's affordable. And on top of his already affordable prices, he can knock $20 off your first design. All you got to do is reach out to him.
Don't do it, Juan.
You could
just give him 10.
No, $20 is the way to go. Reach out to him now at Of The Dead Designs on Instagram, facebook.com/Of The Dead Designs, or go to his website, ofthedead.weebly.com, because Of The Dead Designs, it's bringing artwork to life.
Weebly.
And with that being said, it's now time to go to the second part of our two-part interview with the one, the only, Josh Prohibition. You know what? I think as performers, as wrestlers, I think a lot of us struggle with that too, because I often feel the same way. You know, we were talking a little bit before we started recording about me maybe having imposter syndrome when it comes to these motivational speaking engagements. And one of the hardest things for me when I do these gigs is like not the speaking part. Like even when the PowerPoint presentation and the slideshow has gone down, which has happened several times, I can just pull, you know, the stories out of my ass, and like every single time, like, and this is not like to brag, because I like afterwards I'm like, what's happening? Like I get a standing ovation. I'm like, how did that just happen? Like everything that could go wrong did. Yeah. But beforehand, like, you know, in my brain, I'm not a 38-year-old man. I'm still like a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid trying to figure out life, and I have these other adults, like teachers in the back, trying to like make small talk with me, and I'm just like, like, so did you watch the game this weekend? I'm thinking to myself like, no, do you like Ninja Turtles? Like, I love watching cartoons, and so it's like, it's just trying to, Gregory Iron is somewhere within me, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not something that I necessarily created. It was just finding that outlet to bring him out, and you know, I'm sure it's the same way for Josh Prohibition. There's been some hard times. Yeah. But I think in general, finding that person within me and finding that voice has led me to places that I think if I didn't try to face my fear of failing, I'd have a lot of regret. And I think we're always still figuring out who we are, but I think having Gregory Iron, now I'm talking like a psychopath talking about this other person, but having him in my life is like, it's enriched things. It's helped me learn things about myself. And I think, as hard to believe it is, I think it's helped other people. And that, like, whether it's being that character or just being that vulnerable person, or when I was trying to find who the character was, it was like, and I want to talk to you about, you know, being one of like the first straight edge characters, because I think that's like a big deal for kids like me, like coming up who had a shitty home. It's like I never heard other people talk about abusive childhoods as a wrestler, or and like it kind of worked with the disability, I guess. But like, I don't know. I was like, what is my character? And like, I guess the character is a lot of the real person. And now like I got to be, or at least pretend to be heroic and overcome these odds. And so like, I don't know, as a person who I guess in real life at the time wasn't drinking or smoking, anything like that, you decided to lean into the straight edge thing. And I think that too came with the punk rock lifestyle. It's did you think that, because oftentimes you'd be a heel in that character, but did you think that that would be a motivator for some people? Because I know it was for me.
So the Josh Prohibition name actually started in high school before I had ever even thought about wrestling. Like a lot of punk rock names, like Sid Vicious, not the wrestler, the Sex Pistols bass player, like you know, Johnny Ramone, you know, like you know, you have these guys that have these gimmicks, you know, and you know, that was my name in high school because I was one of the few guys that didn't party and didn't drink, and so, you know, it kind of was like almost like kind of goofing on me at first, and I'm like, no, I'm going to take ownership of that, you know, the same way, like for example, like during the Holocaust, the Nazis used to put pink triangles on gay people. They would have to wear that on their shirt, you know. Now that's a symbol of, you know, the pride movement,
Sure.
So they've taken something that's negative and they've turned it around to a positive.
Yep.
And I was kind of like, well, I like that name, Josh Prohibition, and I'm going to lean into that. And then, when we started wrestling, Matt M-Dogg was also straight edge, and we were kind of kicking around like he was going to call himself like the 18th Amendment, which is the one that created Prohibition or something.
Yeah.
And I was going to be Josh Prohibition, and it's like, well, if we're fighting each other, like, can't really both be straight edge guys. Like, somebody's got to. So like, he went the other extreme, and he did like the almost unlikable gangster rapper, like over the top, kind of gangster rap kind of white guy. So anyway, but yeah, when I started off, my thought was, I'm thinking ECW crowd. They're the drunkest, most drug addicted, just scuzzy South Philadelphia, like just scumbags. But the kind of scumbags you want to wrestle in front of and tell that they're a bunch of scumbags and you're drunks and you're, so when I started the character, my thought was standing in the ECW arena with a microphone, telling them that, every one of their heroes is an alcoholic piece of trash and I'm a real hero, but you're going to boo me. Like that's the promo that's going on in my head,
Yeah.
So I did not think that there would be, an inspiration for younger people that didn't want to drink. But I started realizing pretty quickly. So as soon as I started to travel a bit, and get a little bit of notoriety, this is in the early days of, it's kind of, I guess, it might even be before MySpace, but it was right around the birth of MySpace, whenever year that was. I was really surprised by the amount of kids that would reach out and like, express that, they love that I'm straight edge and, buying merchandise because it would have an X on it. I was like, oh, I got to lean into that X.
Yeah.
I was throwing up that X back in like 1998 when I would come out, for my entrance music for my backyard matches. And then it continued when I got my training and went into the pros, but then obviously Punk was doing it too. And I'm like, well, he's gotten bigger than I am. So it's going to look like I'm stealing his thing. I gotta come up with something else.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was flattered, and some kids even got like tattoos of my some of the artwork that I had done, like with my symbol and like my name.
That's
like,
wild, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, whoa, like, let's talk about this. Like, I wish you would have asked me.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly honored that you would be willing to permanently scar your body with my logo or name.
Sure.
But you're gonna want a girlfriend someday,
Yeah.
But anyway, like, I think when I got to, I was like 27, and I still had never drank, and I never took any drugs or smoked or anything. But I think that was like a weird thing that I had because, like, I don't know, I got through like that period of life where most people make really bad decisions with drugs and alcohol. I kind of got through the college years and high school years and, the years where peer pressure is probably more significant and your brain's still developing. So I got through all that, and I was like 27. And I don't know, there were just situations where I think I was married at that point. I was like, I don't know, my wife was having a glass of wine. I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to have a glass of wine with my wife, or, a beer with my dad at the baseball game. He'd buy a beer, and I'd be like drinking my water, I was like, it'd be nice to have a beer with my dad,
Sure.
And the thing that was actually kind of keeping me from doing it probably sooner was I didn't want to let those kids down, like I was like, man, like I'm worried about some of the backlash like that I might get if I start drinking, and I finally made the decision, and I was like, you know what, why? Yes, I'm honored, but like at the same time, like if I'm making my decision about what some kid online is saying about me, versus like my relationship with my dad, like having a beer, like that's probably the wrong motivation.
Sure.
But eventually I started drinking, and I kept the name. So I kind of lost the straight edge part of my character, but the name still went on. But anyway, I don't know. I'd say this. I'd say being straight edge, especially younger, was a very positive thing for me because I was crazy enough. Like if you would have thrown alcohol into that or drugs or something, like I could be dead. Not from that, but probably from jumping off of something or, car surfing or something just totally mindless, that I was probably already doing close to that, like,
Sure.
So I'm thankful for that. I think it was the right decision at the right time. And, once I kind of transitioned into this different phase of life, like where I feel like I handle it responsibly. Like I've never, never driven drunk, I've never done anything where I look back and I'm like, man, that was a really bad decision,
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm thankful that I can handle it responsibly. I'm also thankful for the fact that for the first 27 years of my life, I stayed away from it and didn't touch it.
Yeah, it sounds like you made the right decision waiting till your brain was fully developed and,
Yeah.
You could be a little bit more rational about it. When you think of rational, do you think of the name JT Lightning?
Oh, man.
Listen, me and JT had a love-hate relationship, but like,
sure.
I'll say this. In the moments, in the beginning, when I started with him, even though I was completely afraid of him, here are the things that I always say about JT. He could have taken my money and just kind of fucked me over in the whole deal, and basically I could have learned nothing. He could see no potential in me, and instead, knowing my situation, he would talk to me in private and show me the basics and always go, I'm going to show you how to do a collar and elbow tie-up now.
Yeah.
If you can't do this is a fundamental of wrestling.
Yeah.
I can no longer train you. And I don't know of many people from that era that would have actually done that and just would have taken my money. And so definitely that was one of the things in the start that kept me going. Talk to me about transitioning from backyard wrestling and understanding, well, maybe me and M-Dogg should get proper training and finding JT Lightning.
Yeah, so because of our backyard success, local independent promotions started reaching out to us because we were starting to have a following even before we were even pro wrestlers, So we had buzz, which was kind of a strange way to do it, I don't know if anybody's ever had that kind of same entrance into pro wrestling. So anyway, I've told this story before, but like for me, I knew that the WWF existed, and I knew there was wrestling in Japan. But like outside of that, like I had heard of Memphis. I saw some stuff I think on ESPN when they'd play like some old, But for me, I was like, man, like if you want to be a wrestler, you have to go to WWF or you have to go to Japan. Like that's the only options. Like I didn't know independent wrestling existed, and this is before the internet really kicked off. Like I didn't have a computer till '99, so this is like '97, '98. Like I don't know anything about it.
Sure.
So I didn't even think being a wrestler was even a realistic option. Like I don't even think I fathomed that there were wrestling schools. Like I don't even think I knew that that's how you become a pro wrestler. Like I don't know how I assumed somebody would become a wrestler, like just show up at the arena and be like, I can take on it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how anything worked.
Well, I think that's how the majority of fans sometimes think it works. How many people have you had walk up to you and go, hey, you need a manager? I could take a chair shot to the head. I think they're like, how dumb are you?
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah, but I mean, now with the internet, you'd have to be pretty dumb not to know how, at least an elementary idea how to get in. But
you'd be shocked.
So for me, there's no way into pro wrestling. I love wrestling. This is towards the end of my baseball days because my shoulder was ripped up, and backyard. I mean, that's our only option, right? There's no others. There's no schools. That wasn't even a thought. So anyway, we start backyarding. We get lucky with those videos. We're on TV shows. We're traveling a lot. Doing Rolling Stone magazine flew us out to California to do an interview. Spin magazine. It was wild. Like TV shows from London, England would come over and follow me for a week, and they would record me going to class and working at the baseball school I worked at, and following me 24/7 with video cameras. I'm like, what is going on?
Could you appreciate that in the moment, or is it something you look back in retrospect and realize how absolutely insane that is?
I think it took some perspective to.
Yeah.
Because I think I was when it got rolling hard, it was every weekend there was some media. And it was constant, and it was crazy, and they would fly us to London, and we would do promo stuff over there, and I was like, what are we it was just such a whirlwind, and at the same time I was being told I'm gonna be a millionaire, so it's
right.
I'm 19 years old, and I was not doing well in college my first year or two, because I was like, what does understanding music class matter when I'm gonna be a millionaire?
Yeah, that check's coming.
Yeah, it was always coming. But anyway, so we started getting promotions in the area reaching out to us, and there was one in particular that I guess has been revived recently called EFW, which was out of good old Parma, Ohio, and they started running shows, and they had this really sweet racket where if you wanted to wrestle on the show, you had to pay the promoter, I think it was $40.
Okay.
And then you also had to sell like a specific number of tickets to be able to wrestle. So it was like a $40 buy-in, and you had to sell like 20 to 25 tickets to get your match.
What a scam.
Oh, it was awesome. And so they would book like 50 kids, and they'd have one battle royal, and then they'd have like 8 matches, you know.
Yeah.
And but anyway, some of these crowds we were wrestling in front of were like 900 people, because you got 50 kids that all have to sell 25 to 30 tickets. You know?
Sure.
So we started doing those shows, and my deal was, I'm not paying you $40, and I'm not selling a ticket. Like, I'm just going to wrestle. And I thought, like, I was like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I got him.
I'm not getting paid anything, you know.
Yeah.
But the deal also was I was allowed to record my own matches and use that video footage for anything I wanted to. But those are the ones that ended up on some of those tapes that were sold by the millions in California, because we were technically still untrained, even though we were wrestling in a ring. So I was glad that I made that deal. Like, we were allowed to tape our own matches with our own cameras and do whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
So that was the benefit. But anyway, so the person that was renting the ring to these local independent scams was JT, because he would always want, make a buck. He was old school, I'm going to make money.
Yeah.
So I started to get to know him a little bit, and he had that aura about him where he was believable. Like, you really felt like if you said the wrong thing to him, he would beat you up. And I saw him do it to people.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
I've seen
it was a real thing.
Yeah, like, he really would. So I'm like, I wasn't misreading that. Like, he if you really said the wrong thing at the wrong time, he will attack you. So he starts doing these ring rentals, and so he took a liking to Matt and I, because we were fairly athletic, especially Matt, and we had some tools, and I think some stuff that you can't necessarily teach, no matter how much you polish some of these guys that have very little athletic ability.
Yeah.
There's not much you're going to do with them. So anyway, he eventually makes a pitch that, hey, if you guys want to start training, I'll cut you a deal, because I really want to train you. And right around that same time, I got knocked out badly by my brother in a match. And it was like one of those get knocked out, not remember I got knocked out, get up, get knocked out again, get up, not remember I got knocked out, get knocked out.
That's always fun.
3 or 4 times in the same match. So I ended up in a Metro trauma unit with a bunch of car crashes. And I woke up and I lost the day before, the day of, the day after. No recollection, gone, no memory whatsoever. And, like the most significant concussion you can have, like just brutal. And
I was there. I was there for mine too. Yeah.
So anyway, after that, like, I had that, like, kind of little bit of a moment of clarity where my dad actually swore at me for the first time in my life ever.
Wow.
The first time I heard him swear. The man's self-control is just off the charts. But anyway, I was home from the hospital, and I was this is like a day or two after. I'm sitting at the computer, and probably talking to someone on AOL Instant Messenger about my concussion and how cool it was, and my dad comes, like, stomping downstairs. It's like 2 a.m, and, like, that's not like him, he was asleep at 10 o'clock, and he's in the other room, and I hear him, like, reading something, but he's just, like, turning pages really aggressively, and I, like, walk in, and I was like, Dad, you all right? And he's like, I can't remember exactly how he set it up, but he's like, no, I'm not all right, because you're gonna break your damn neck one of these days. And, like, the fact that he never swore, that he said damn, like,
damn,
it
wow.
might have been like, it was the same as if he had F-bombed me, like, mother F me up and down, the fact that he used the word damn, I was like, Dad swore.
Yeah.
And I think that really was significant for me. I was like, okay, like, I don't want to break my damn neck. JT offered, I'm going to heal my brain up a little bit. And then shortly after that, I went to a show in Garfield Heights that JT was running with Sabu and Bad Boy Hito, and Tommy Rich and a few other ECW guys. But anyway, I got to stay in the locker room. I got to meet Sabu, which wasn't a great experience. And shortly after that, that night, JT pushed a cop on the way out when he was playing heel, and he got arrested that night. And
sounds about right.
Yeah, so even after all that, I was like, I am in. Because he wanted to introduce me to the world of wrestling and bring me in the locker room, and everything that probably in a normal person would have been a real significant red flag, like, oh, the promoter gets arrested for pushing a cop, like Tommy Rich is walking around with his penis hanging out the whole time, asking people if they want to put it back in his pants.
Oh, my God.
And I'm just like, yeah, this is what I want to dedicate my life to.
Yeah.
I was at training the next Monday, and so Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or it was 3 days a week for 2 to 3 hours a day for months and months and months. I loved every second of it. But, JT was an absolute kook, but he also had a really good heart. But at the same time, he would wrestle with his craziness. So like most people, there's two sides to everybody. Like JT was capable of really great things and really generous with me and Matt and just kind at times. And then, at times he would make threats and, but I loved him, and I saw the wrinkles, like I knew he had wrinkles, like, and that was fine because like I'm damaged, he was damaged, like most of us are damaged to some extent.
Yeah.
But I remember one time in particular, we were going down. Might have been my first road trip ever. Like he took me on the road the same way I took Ray and Johnny and those guys on the road. He took me down to Southern Ohio to a ring that was built like a legit deck, not a wrestling ring. Like my deck out here, very similar structure.
Okay.
Like, no bump. I mean, it was a deck, and then it was canvas with maybe a tiny bit of padding.
Yeah.
So we do a match down there, and he goes over, some kind of wicked arm bar that he gave me, which was actually pretty sweet. And we start driving home, and he just starts going into his past. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but he had a rough go, rough childhood. In a lot of ways, I give him credit for persevering through it and for having a family and working and being a dad. And, no, he wasn't perfect, but like, I think people, if they were put into a similar situation that he had to grow up with, wouldn't have turned out as good as he did. So when he would act like a kook, I don't know, I gave him a pass, like, cause in the same day he would come up to me and give me 3 or 4 free ECW t-shirts, and tell me he loved me, so, there'd be times where I was doing really well and he was banged up and he would send me a text message and, he would basically say like, oh, you're a superstar now. You don't have time for me. And, and I would just not respond, cause that was probably the best way to handle JT is not respond. And he was my trainer, and I do have that kind of old school respect for guys that train you. And then the next day he would write me back and say, I'm sorry I said that, maybe I need a hug. So like, I knew he was a good guy and I knew he had a temper, so it's like, I navigated the tough waters when they were there, and then I knew when to back off and then when to, move in. And thankfully I have pretty good emotional intelligence on how to read people, and I knew how to read them. So, I'm thankful. Like for example, like I'd go down and do that match down south, and then he's like, I got you a booking up in Detroit, and I'm like, I'm not even doing anything. He's like hooking me up. So he drives me up to Detroit. I get a match, meet the promoter, DBA, and,
DBA.
Yeah, and
Still
we were
going.
wrestling in the same place. I think like, I can't remember the story, but ICP shot at Eminem or Eminem shot at ICP up there.
Okay.
Like it was in that bar.
Yep.
So we were wrestling up there, and the same day we keep our gear on and we ride all the way over to Painesville, Ohio, and wrestle a match that night. So we did the matinee, and then we did, and it's like he's taking me on the road and doing this stuff, and it's like, this is amazing, the fact that he was willing to do all that and book all that for me, and like, he got me rolling and he got eyes on me, and like, he definitely was like old school, like Southern wrestling training. So, I had to learn a lot, just trial and error, but he gave me a foundation, and he got the ball rolling, and he got me out there, and he got eyes on me. And, even towards the end of his life, when he was about to pass from cancer, he would send me really, kind of flattering, complimentary messages about being proud of me, and it meant a ton. The fact that he was so kind, to me, and the fact that he, would reach out and say such nice things, and even I think it was like 2 weeks before he died, he sent me a message. He's like, I hope we can catch an Indians game. They were still the Indians at that time before they changed to the Guardians, but catch an Indians game here soon. And I was like, anytime, just let me know. And then he passed, I think, like 2 weeks later. And it was kind of cool. On the day he was having his funeral, we were booked for PWO. It was one of the resolutions at Nautica.
Yeah, was it the three-way with you and Johnny?
So it was me, Matt, and Johnny.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of the match.
So that match is incredible. And every time that me and or Matt and or Johnny go back and watch that, because we've done it a few times when we get bored. I don't know why that's always the match we go to. We always forget how much shit you guys did in that match.
Yeah.
Like, just when you think, like, well, they can't do any more, like, you guys do even more.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I think it was, I'm trying to think of the time frame here, but in some ways I think it was a little bit ahead of its time, because, like, very similar style with a lot of matches. Yeah. Like, you see it, 15 years later, it's pretty common, some of the things we were doing. And I won't take credit for that. Like, that's Johnny Brain. Like, Johnny's like a wrestling savant.
Yeah.
So I give him a ton of credit for, like, helping structure that, like, I just had to do a lot of the moves, and just remember them,
Sure.
But his ability to kind of pinpoint things and put things into the proper place and kind of have the foresight to know that, like, this will work here and this will work here,
Yeah.
So, like, that, I give him 75% of the credit for that match, Like,
he's a different breed.
I agree.
I had a conversation with him, and I never talked to him about it personally, but then we did the podcast, and I was trying to think, like, what makes this guy so special? And I remember, because I lived with him, talking to him, and maybe this will make sense, and I don't know, like, what your thought process was when coming up with psychology or unique spots or whatever, whether it was a single or with a tag with Matt, but there'd be nights where he told me, like, he just couldn't fall asleep, and I'd go, why? And he was like, my brain just doesn't shut off, and I started thinking about wrestling spots and everything, and then, when we did the podcast together, I just started grilling him about it. It was like, is that what sets you apart from people? That, like, there was this period in life where your brain just didn't shut off, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like torture in some ways, but, like, I think it puts you on another playing field when it comes to this industry.
I agree. I would call Johnny a wrestling genius, and I'd put him up there with Alex Shelley as a wrestling genius. Jerry Lynn, so I think back to some of the guys I got to step in the ring with, and, Johnny and Shelley especially, Johnny and Shelley, they're both very similar. They're kind of cut from the same cloth. And just their ability to, like, process wrestling, to, like I said, have the foresight to know the order of things and how the crowd is going to respond. Because you can always make your best guess, but it doesn't mean it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
But they would hit so often on what they would put together. And the other thing I was always kind of amazed with Johnny and Alex was, like, the memory, like the ability to remember complex, intricate things with incredible precision. And the longer I wrestled, the more I would have to go over it. Like, when I was younger, I don't know if it was probably concussions or, just aging brain or whatever. It's like, I got to go over this way more. Like, and they would have it, like, on the first or second time they got it. They got not only their part, they have your part too.
Yeah.
And that was always fascinating to me. It's almost like, what are they, like autistic savants, where they have, like, one area of their life where they're, like, superhuman, abilities.
Yeah.
Like mathematics or...
Could be.
Like, I feel like Johnny's like a wrestling autistic savant. Like, he just has this ability to, like, see things, think things, and, like the stuff in NXT that he was doing when he was running hard there. It's like, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Some of those matches that, at the Madison Square Garden stuff were like I was tearing up a few of them. I was like, man, I'm so invested in this. Like, so good. But anyway, back to, like, where I was getting at with all this. Like, so, we have that three-way on the day JT is being buried. And it was one of those, like, those, like, moments where there's no good option. It's like, do I miss my trainer's funeral to wrestle a match that, I'm going to try to honor him with, by putting on the best possible match I can. Like, and I was thinking to myself, like, what would JT want? Like, would he want me sitting around crying at his funeral, or would he want me like tearing it up with Johnny and Matt in the ring in Cleveland? Like the show that he kind of built, because he did the first one at Nautica.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing the show. Like, like if I was dead, like, and I could still have consciousness and know what was going on, like, hell yeah, like, please, like, everybody skip my funeral if there was a wrestling show. Like, go do the show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So anyway, that was just such a cool way. Like, I felt like I honored. I remember I wrote his name on my wrist tape, JT, and so like going into it, just the fact that I was getting in there with two of my best friends in wrestling, on the day that my trainer and friend was being buried, was just like such an emotional thing, and the crowd was excellent, and that was you talk about moments in wrestling, like that was right up there, and definitely in top probably 5 that I ever had in pro wrestling, where like this is amazing, like just such a surreal and a good thing for all of us, I think, to have that match that day at that time, and to put on the show that we did.
There's so much I want to talk to you about, and I'm probably going to bug you to do some extra stuff after this for Patreon, just because I just want to go all over the place for a little bit. Yeah. But I feel like this is a good segue to talk about someone who's also been sort of intertwined with you since the beginning, and that's M-Dogg Matt Cross. You broke in with him, and you went out with him May 24th, your final match. Talk to me about what makes M-Dogg so special, and talk to me about the build up to your final match, and I don't know, just how you feel now that it's all said and done.
Yeah, so I met Matt back in 1997. I was a senior at Brecksville High School. He was a sophomore. And in May of my senior year, so this is like when I'm completely checked out, there was some kid in our school that was trying to put on a concert at the Brecksville High School in the cafeteria. And it was kind of funny because he came over to my lunch table and said, "Hey, Josh, I heard you have a band." And at this point, I don't have a band. I've never had a band. I've never picked up a musical instrument.
Okay.
So this kid that wants to be a promoter, music promoter, comes over to me and asks me that. And like my best friend at that time was named Will Meek, who's still one of my best friends in the world. He and I look at each other, and at the same time, we're like, "Yeah, we got a band,"
Yeah.
And so he's like, "All right, do you want to be in it?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I'm gonna give you these tickets here, and you get to sell. You have to sell them. You get to keep $1 from everyone you sell. Yada yada." So anyway, we're like, "Oh, what do we do? Like we got to come up with a song or two, So we go over to his house and we start trying to put together some music, and it is not going well. Like Will played a little bit of guitar. The one guy we found like couldn't really play drums, and the other guy really couldn't play bass. So we're like, this isn't gonna work. Like we need another route. So like we're like, let's just lose our minds, like, and just play the most random, just smash the guitars and bang on the drums, and I'll just scream at the top of my lungs and just make up whatever's in my head at that time.
Yeah.
So we came up with the name. Our band was called 4 Kids, 1 Brain, and
love that.
So we all wore ski masks, shirtless. We get on the stage and we do exactly what I just said we were going to do. First song, I bust my knuckles punching a drum or something. I'm bleeding, which is great because it adds to the story, right? Red equals green, isn't that what the kids say?
That's what they say, brother.
And so I'm bleeding first song. I lose my voice second song. So we had to make some changes. So I took over on drums because I could not make an audible noise anymore because I lost my voice. And at some point, I'm on the drums, banging on my homemade drums, as hard as I can with bloody knuckles. And I see this guy hop on the stage, and he's got a hooded black sweatshirt on with the hood up. And he pulls the most gorgeous moonsault off of the stage onto the cafeteria floor. And as he turns around, I see a sweatshirt and it says Straight Edge on the back. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, who is this kid? Like, can't see his face. He's got a hood on. It says Straight Edge. He just did the most perfect moonsault you've ever seen, It's like made Sabu look like a bum,
Yeah.
So as soon as we're done playing our whatever, I don't even want to call it music. Like I run over to him, like, dude, who are you? You know, and he introduced himself, and from that point on, I mean, I was like, I made the joke in a promo once. I was like in that scene with Step Brothers where they're fighting and fighting and fighting. They're in the room and they realize they have all this in common. And he's like, "Did we just become best friends?" Yup. You know, like that was it. Like we we had it. So we had so much in common. We were straight edge. We liked the same music, but he hated wrestling. He had been a Dusty Rhodes guy when he was growing up. Like he liked Dusty. He named his dog or something after Dusty.
Yep.
But at some point, some adult, unfortunately, very similar to like what happens with Santa Claus, like, you know, ruined the gimmick and kind of said like wrestling's fake, and it ruined it for him, you know, where he was just like, oh, this is stupid, you know, I'm not going to watch this fake stuff. So anyway, flash forward, we become friends. We start going to punk rock shows together, and I invited him over for an ECW pay-per-view. Had to be early, had to be like 97, maybe 98. And at that time, man, like for me, those are like holy days, you know. So I mean, I set up the surround sound. We're going full spread of food, wings, pizza, you know, the whole thing. And I'm gonna have it as loud as it could possibly be because I want to feel like I'm in the arena. So he's real hesitant about coming over because in his head, like wrestling sucks, you know. So anyway, I brought him over, and the way that he tells the story is the franchise gets on the mic and says, "Cut the effing music," but he doesn't censor it, and he's like, you can't swear in wrestling. Like, you know, this guy just dropped the mother of all swear words, and then New Jack's music hits, and he comes out and does his New Jack thing, and Matt was hooked, you know, like, because for him that was just such an intense, like, punk rock style of wrestling. So I swear, I think maybe even the same night or the next night, you know, he decided to get involved in the backyard stuff. My brother and I, Dave, had already kicked it off just against each other, and then Matt wanted to get in, and that was it. So anyway, I talked him into training together. We went to JT's school together. And, you know, like so many wrestlers breaking in, it's always great to find somebody that compliments you in the ring so that you can have a really good match and you can kind of take it anywhere. And, you know, that's your first exposure to certain fans. And it's like if you put on a good match first, like you win a lot of favor. You know, so even if your second, third, fourth match aren't great, you know, against other people, you know, you kind of won the crowd in a way. And that's exactly what Matt and I did. Like, we were green as could be, but the fact that when we went at it, it was really good, you know, or at least spectacular. It wasn't necessarily good, but it was spectacular.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so we started traveling all over the world, eventually country and then world with the same match, you know. So anyway, you know, we got into it and we were running real hard for a long time, and, you know, as close could be. And, you know, eventually, you know, we start heading towards 30, and I at that point, I guess I was tired of being lied to and like almost making it, you know. And I stole a line from a song that goes, "I'd rather be working for a paycheck than waiting to win the lottery." And I felt like I was waiting to win the lottery, you know. And I was like, I guess I want something more steady. So I decided that, you know, at that point, wrestling was going to be a hobby, and I was going to get my teaching degree, which I did, and then eventually got a teaching job, and I would wrestle on weekends, and I wouldn't have to worry about, you know, money. I wouldn't have to worry about if I get hurt trying to work through it. You know, I could take a booking off and not feel bad about it, you know, that. But anyway, so Matt obviously stayed with it, and, you know, I kind of went the other way. But, you know, definitely the feud kind of continued. I you know, occasionally he would pop in, and I would, you know, him and I would do a thing, and sometimes we'd tag together, sometimes we'd wrestle each other. But anyway, heading towards the end, it only made sense. So we were heading towards this past May, and it was actually the legit 25th anniversary of Matt and I's first match in a ring back in 1999. And I think it was like, there was no other way to go out, you know, like that was it. Like, unless Johnny was going to get a pass from Triple H to like jump in or something, you know, have a three-way. Yeah. There was like no other way that we could go out, or I could go out. So anyway, yeah, so we set it up where I was wrestling that young guy, Tyler Jordan, in my final feud, basically, that lasted about 6 or 7 months. And we were right towards the end of the blow-off match where I was going to put Tyler over because he deserved it. And I started to get real ugly, like where I was going to try to hurt this kid in the ring, and Matt came out and tried to stop me and said, this isn't you, and basically prevented me from hurting this young man, and it ended up costing me the match, and so that set up Matt and I for my final match in May, which we did in Cleveland in front of, I know there was about 1,000 some paid, which is pretty good,
It was packed in there.
Yeah, so, and I mean, they comped probably a couple hundred, and there was probably about 1,000 paid. So, I mean, it was a great house for Cleveland, especially. And it was at the Temple Live, which used to be called the Cleveland Masonic Temple, which, cool enough, back in probably 97, 98, I had front row for ECW, and Jerry Lynn plancha'd right into the chair next to me. RVD did his front flip out of the ring onto the Dudley Boyz right by me.
That's
Sabu
awesome.
did his thing. Bam Bam Bigelow was up in the balcony pissing. And actually, that's the reason why the venue would not do wrestling for like 20 years, was because Bam Bam pissed all over the venue. He just kept opening up and just pissing wherever he stood.
Wow.
And so they said they would never do wrestling again, but we talked him into it a few years back.
Of all the reasons why ECW could lose a venue.
Bam Bam pissing on everything.
Unreal.
Yeah. So anyway, it was the perfect way to go out, and I got to wrestle one of my best friends. The first match I had was against the same guy as I had in my last match, and to have my family and friends there, my mom and my dad. It was actually my mom's first time she ever saw me wrestle.
Wow.
Because she hated the idea of me getting hurt. She was a nurse. She was just always terrified I was going to really hurt myself, and I talked her into coming, and so they sat her and my dad on the stage, and my brother and his kids, and my wife and my kids, and it's just such a weird, surreal, because there was times during the match where I would look out from the ring and I'd see my entire family sitting on the stage, and there were so many familiar faces in the crowd and in the audience, and I obviously, outside of Cleveland, in the scheme of wrestling, I think I even said this in the promo, I'm a drop in the bucket, but in that arena at that time with those friends and my family, it just meant so much, and to see the reaction of the wrestlers and the crowd, they had me crying before I came out, because they, when I was going to go out, my music hit, they made basically a wedding reception line by the entrance, and they started clapping. I was like, you guys are killing me. I'm going to start bawling before I even get out there. And I was like, I'm like, oh God, I got to wrestle a match. And, so I go in the ring, and I'm like, man, I can't hold it together right now. This is bad. I'm crying. And, so I look at Matt, and he's getting teary-eyed, so it's like, oh, this is good head space to be in when you're about to go through some crazy violence. It's like, I feel like hugging, not going through a table and, trying to act like we're 20-something years old with some of the spots we were running. So we get nose to nose to start the match. And I think his exact words were, I'm real emotional right now. And I was like, me too, dude. I'm like, we gotta go. But yeah, it was just such a cool way to end it, and to have my one of my best friends pin me, and here's the other thing which for me was really amazing and surreal was I didn't know that my wife and my two daughters were going to get in the ring after. That was not talked about at all. So I don't know who told them to do that, because my wife wouldn't do it on her own because she'd be terrified she'd get in trouble or something, So somebody said go in the ring, and so Matt pins me. I'm flat on my back. I got my eyes closed because I'm crying. I don't want to open my eyes. And I finally open my eyes, and it's like my daughter Olivia is looking over me, kind of upside down, and I'm like, what the, what are you doing here? But yeah, it was just such a cool, because I think about when we started in 1999, where I was in life, just confused, angry, damaged kid. And then 25 years later, I'm in a loving marriage with two great kids, and I'm an established, respected teacher. And it's man, life has gone on this insane roller coaster ride, but wrestling has been this amazing constant in my life. It's been the one thing that's held true when all this other stuff has happened. It's so it took me from where I was in 99, which was I was out of my mind, with no direction pretty much. I thought I was going to make millions off backyard wrestling, and then, to be where I was at 25 years in, it was just such a cool story, and like I'm so thankful for that journey, and like how I grew and evolved as a person, and like all the adversity and the craziness that I had to deal with, and the people. Like I don't regret or like I don't see it any as a negative. Even the stuff that was bad, like I'm thankful for, because it's like I learned so much, and it shaped me into who I was and who I became and who I am now. So I'm just, I'm so grateful and thankful, for the quarter century, which is crazy to say, that I spent, involved in professional wrestling. It's just such a, I don't even like the word blessing. It was just such a gift, like it was a gift.
I don't know if Johnny told you this, but I think at some point in the last few years he had a conversation with Gabe Sapolsky, and your name came up somehow. Do you know this story?
Cabana said that he had talked to Gabe a few times, but I think outside of that, I don't know.
So what Johnny was saying was somehow you came up and Gabe, your name got brought up, and Gabe was like, Josh Prohibition, like, he was really good. Why didn't I ever use him? And Johnny was like, I don't know. And it's just like, I think, today as I was like just remembering some stuff about you online and reading some stuff, there was things I was reading was like underrated, or, I don't know why he never did this or that. And for me, I don't know. I think some people would look at this as like what could have been. But I think about what was, what is, and for everyone that you worked with or got the pleasure to see you, I think it is what will forever be Josh Prohibition, and I don't know. I like I said, I hold you in the same regard that we held Tracy. Like you make everybody better, and you motivate people, and I don't know. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if it wasn't for you telling me what a dickhead I was, and just being real with me and keeping me on the straight and narrow. And I can only imagine that you did that for a lot of other people, and you probably don't even realize it.
Yeah,
you've always been that good.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, in small circles, I'm glad that I've been able to do what I can do to help others, and I feel like obviously my wrestling days are done, but I'm always going to be involved in pro wrestling because it's cliche at this point, but it's an addiction. Like once you got it, you're not going to let it go. Like, so I don't know if that'll manifest itself into me just sticking with the wrestling school and helping out with agenting matches, or whether I'll have a microphone and an on-screen role. But I got the bug. It's not going away. My wife says she doesn't understand it, but she says she gets the fact that I need to do it. She doesn't understand why, but she gets it, and sometimes I can't explain why. Like, from the outside looking in, like, I have everything. I have the American dream, like I've achieved that, and I'm grateful for everything that I have, but like I need wrestling. It's like, it's not a want. It's like, it's, even these 6 months, like I just started back up at the school in December. I took off from May, June, July, August, September, October, November. I took off. I didn't step in a ring, which I think it was the longest drought ever. Even in some of the hang-ups that I had, like I would still go to a wrestling school, I'd still step into a ring. So it was like the longest that I hadn't stepped in a ring. And when I did back, just a month ago in December, I was like, I said that to the guys. I'm like, that was the longest drought I've had since I was like 19 of stepping in a ring. Like, it feels very good to just be there, and like no crowd, nothing. Like, I just like being in the ring. Like, I would sleep in their Japanese dojo style if I could. Like, I just love being in a professional wrestling ring. And I think for some guys, like, they like the travel, they like the attention, they like what wrestling brings them, the attention and the fans and the money. Like, I genuinely, that stuff, whatever, like, bell to bell, like, I just love being in that wrestling ring. I love wrestling. Like, I just love it. Like, the physical act of it, the sport of it, like, I just genuinely love it. And I'm just glad to be able to still show guys, some of the stuff that I've learned, and thankfully guys like Smothers and JT and Lynn and have passed on to me, and I'm trying to teach younger guys. And I made dumb mistakes, and I tell guys that hey, learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make them, so that you can make better decisions than I did in certain situations and scenarios. And and again, back to one of the original conversations we had, like, I'm willing to do that for people that are good people. Like, if you love wrestling and you're a good dude, like, I'll bend over backwards for you.
One of my favorite promos that you've cut is something that wasn't too many years ago, Death or Glory. Do you remember that promo?
Oh, yeah.
In that promo, you talk about your legacy.
Yeah.
And do you remember what you said?
I was telling him that, my legacy, that I was going to be a good dad and a good man, a good father. I remember talking a lot about that. Yeah,
and I think the last part was, and maybe he had a few decent wrestling matches along the way, right?
Yeah.
Is that still
100%?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to, like, do the name drop thing where I start talking about guys that are, at the top right now that have reached out to me and said incredibly kind things about me, especially when I was heading towards home there, but it was some really respected, well-known names in wrestling, and the fact that they were willing to say, such kind things, and, like, that matters, like, to have the respect of your peers, especially peers that have been incredibly successful and have made it, would I rather be Josh Prohibition or the Dynamite Kid, who was a horrible human and treated people awfully, but still had some of the most amazing wrestling matches in history?
Yeah.
I guess I'd want my legacy that I talked about in that promo, where I was a good dad and a good husband and a good friend, and I left some decent wrestling matches behind. Like, I'd rather have that as my testament. So yeah, I would say that promo holds very true.
And you know what? The wrestling legacy, that's probably going to carry on. You were just talking about your daughter starting to wrestle and stuff.
Oh, my wife's going to kill me. So my daughter, Sophia, is a really good gymnast. Too good. I wish she wasn't as good, because it costs so much to keep paying for all these teams and games. And
she hit Zack Ryder with the Hurricanrana, right?
She did. Yeah, that was one of my favorite. I don't know if it's a good thing to say, but it was probably one of my proudest moments as a dad. I was wrestling Cardona and Zack Ryder for AIW for their big title. And, of course, Cardona's cheating, and he's got Chelsea Green outside cheating. So it basically turns on to a 2-on-1, and then PME, they come out. So it's basically a 4-on-1 match. And Cardona... there was no rules in this match, so he's about to waffle my head in with a chair. And at that point, my daughter, who was probably 9 or 10, she couldn't watch her dad get beat up anymore, so she was brave enough, which I would never suggest to any other fans, but to hop the guardrail. And she got in between Cardona and I before he could waffle my head in. And he dropped the chair and said something to her, and she decided to kick him right in the shin. And when he went to powerbomb her, she turned it into one of the prettiest hurricanranas I've ever seen. And right after that, I hit my finish, and we got a 2 99 100ths count out of that. And the pop was incredible. And Pat Flanagan and Nathan Zagura were doing the call on it on the broadcast, and great call by both of them. But I definitely revisit that video clip fairly frequently. It's like, you talk about proud moments as a dad, to see your 10-year-old daughter, number one, hit her cue perfectly, better than most wrestlers.
Yep.
Her timing was excellent.
Yep.
Like, her facial expressions were excellent. She hits the move. She got out of the ring. And after that, she had another thing where the PME picked her up and was putting her in a bear hug, and I ran out and glommed them. But she did everything right. I was like, man, like, you have better instincts and timing than, like, guys have been doing it for years, where I'm sitting there waiting for them, like, come on, bud, let's go, like, a spot's, like,
sure,
we're losing them. But anyway, so she's got the gymnastics background, and, at times she can be fairly tough. So I don't know. I was pitching the idea of her becoming a pro wrestler, but my wife is balking at it. But I think also If it was 1999 and she wanted to be a pro wrestler, I'd say 100% no.
No, it was way different for the girls back then.
Yeah, now the WWE hires girls that can wrestle as opposed to girls that were just eye candy. You know, and now there's a lot more respect on women's wrestling. So, you know, I would not be opposed to it. It is a wild world. I think she may have had too tame of a childhood thus far. You know, I don't think she has any of those mental illnesses that we've discussed. Like, so in that regard, I don't know if she would be a good wrestler. You know, but she definitely has a lot of tools and intangibles that, you know, you can't teach.
Yeah, that's awesome. You posted on Facebook that I noticed from a couple days ago that you only hit about 10% of your goals in 2024. So how are we going to fix that in 2025? What's on the agenda?
That's a good question. So, yeah, I'm huge on goals, and I'm a teacher and a coach, and I teach psychology class actually too, and I talk about, you know, motivation as one of the topics of our class. And I was talking about how if you write your goals down and keep them in a location where people can see them, like you can see them, you know, the percentage of you actually obtaining them goes up significantly. And the reason I didn't hit a lot of my goals this last year, I don't know. I think I didn't revisit them enough. I didn't look at them enough. And, you know, sometimes life just gets crazy and, you know, but anyway, I'm a really driven person and I hate failing. Like, I absolutely hate it more than anything. So, you know, the fact that I didn't have a great year last year with meeting a lot of my goals, I think actually can be a positive thing for me, because now it motivates me even more. And I don't like looking bad or looking weak or looking, you know, like a failure in any capacity of my life. So I'm definitely driven. So, I mean, I'll probably take it to an extreme this year and, you know, make sure I meet, you know, almost all the goals that I want to achieve.
Well, I believe in you, Josh.
Well,
and
thank
you know what? I this has been on my list for a while to just have a sit down with you, and I feel like, you know, I'm starting out 2025 right by just having this conversation with you, and it's been too long. And just once again, thank you for everything that you've done for me and for everyone else that you've crossed paths with. And I don't know, do you want to plug anything? You got anything you want to plug?
Oh man, I don't shill anything anymore. I don't know, you can follow me on Instagram and watch me post pictures of the food I make and my dog, and I'm at Josh Prohibition if you wanted to check that out. Besides that, you know, be kind to each other, learn how to cook something, go fishing.
As we record this, would you say that it's a great day? I don't know, what's the catchphrase? I can't remember it.
Okay, so pause for 1 second on
Yep.
that. Pause for 1 second. So before Tracy Smothers passed, I had heard him say, "Is it good to be alive?" in whatever town you're standing in at that day. So usually it was Cleveland, Ohio when he was in town. So Tracy Smothers would say, "Is it good to be alive in Cleveland, Ohio?" or what? And at some point in my life, I was listening to him speak, and I was feeling good about things. And I was like, wait a second. It really is. Like, it's really good to be alive in Cleveland, Ohio on a Saturday night at a Cleveland All Pro Wrestling show. You know, and so as he was slowing down and getting sick, I asked him if I could start using that line. And he had a perfect Tracy answer. His answer was, "Yeah, man," he's like, "M-Dogg already took all my moves, so you might as well take my." So I got Tracy's blessing, you know, to start saying it. But in a lot of ways, like, I have definitely taken that to heart, like appreciating how good it is to be alive, even when it's not, even when you're sick or beat up or tired or relational stuff. It's like, man, like the fact that we're alive is a miracle, like in this universe. Like, you know, the odds of us being here and having this conversation now are so absolute minuscule. Like, it is almost miraculous. So I don't know. I take that to heart. And, you know, I don't say it as a cliche. Like, I really mean it. You know, like, I do feel so appreciative to be alive. And, you know, I have plenty of buddies that aren't. You know, I have plenty of friends that aren't. So I cherish this life. I cherish the moments, the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, I love it all. And I'm not going to get it right, but there was a quote by Bear Grylls, the man versus, you know, nature kind of guy.
Yeah.
He talks about how, and I'm just going to give kind of the synopsis of it, but he was kind of saying that, you know, when he dies, he doesn't want to leave like a beautiful corpse. Like he wants, to come in, sideways, beat up, torn down, just like, what an adventure this was. And I take that to heart. Like that's really how I want to go out. Like I want to burn the candle at both ends for as long as I possibly can and really enjoy and live the hell out of this life. And what they say in Dead Poets Society, suck the marrow out of life. Like I really want to do that. And, I believe it. I preach it. I tell everybody that, and I think, attitude is so important for especially traversing difficult situations. Like if you are down and out and you're wallowing in it, it's like getting through that stuff so much harder, like kind of trying to focus on the things that are positive does matter. And I know it's harder. It's easier to say than to do, but I do think that matters, so much to count your blessings and, the good things that you have, even when stuff's rough.
Yeah, and hopefully, I don't know, this conversation between two dudes is a motivator for some people. And I don't know, can't think of a better way to end the show other than with that. So, hey, thank you so much again for your time. And
thank you.
Hey, I love you, man.
Love you too. Appreciate it.
That was the interview with Josh Prohibition. And
I loved it.
Listen, I can't thank Josh enough for taking the time to sit with me, not just for the 2 hours that were recorded, but also the 3-ish hours that we've sat around after and just caught up. I owe a lot of my career to Josh Prohibition. I know he's helped a lot of guys along the way. We only hit just a little bit of what Josh has done over the course of his 25-year career, and I'm sure we've got a lot more stories in the can that we can pull out of it for this podcast, and we'll do that at some point down the line. Let us know if you want more Josh Prohibition. I know I do. Aaron?
Yes.
You want to try to get that big pork chop soon?
Oh, yeah, I need that. I wonder if he still has it at his house.
His wife ate it.
Oh, okay.
So he'll have to buy more pork chops.
Oh, I'll feel bad then. But truly, when people talk about wrestling as unsung heroes, people that never get enough credit, Josh Prohibition.
I would agree with that, and I would agree that I would like to come back to do more podcasting next week, but we're also going to be doing bonus content over on Patreon, extra bonus episodes, bonus
Boner
YouTube
content,
stuff.
too.
Well, maybe.
Yeah,
Who knows? If you're
I'm
lucky.
posting a couple pictures right now.
For the right price, you can also get some boner content, but patreon.com/Iron Wrestling, best way to support the show, or just subscribe on YouTube or wherever you download podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Audible. Make sure you follow us on social media at Iron on Wrestling. Follow me on social media. I am Gregory Iron on X. I probably won't do much for you over there because I don't really use it anymore. It just exists. Instagram, Gregory_Iron. That's a good place to get a hold of me. Facebook.com/TheHandicappedHero.
How long are you going to keep that Facebook?
I like Facebook.
Oh.
What?
Zuckerberg just announced no more fact-checking. Just like...
Because so
X.
many people were checking facts before over there, huh? Facebook might be, Twitter and Facebook neck and neck for idiots who don't fact check a damn thing. But hey, I'm there, and you can talk to me, and I am not a complete moron. You can message me for pro wrestling, motivational speaking, and pro wrestling seminars. ProWrestlingTees.com/Gregory Iron for my shirts, Aaron shirts, Iron on Wrestling shirts, Cameo, if you want a shout out of some sort. And also just throwing it out there, I still have one last piece from my death match back in November, the 440 Gang Warfare match. Warfare match. It's my trunks, my yellow trunks that I also used on a variety of matches over the last couple years. So they're still covered in my blood. Reach out to me. Serious inquiries only. Aaron, what would you like to plug?
I'm on Blue Sky at Fair to Air.
That's it?
Yeah, Fair to Aaron on Instagram, but I'm not really into those things anymore. And don't try to reach me on Facebook because, I want my facts checked.
That sounds fair. Okay, until next week, thanks for joining us. Appreciate all the support. Hope your new year is so far so good. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Until then, here's a kiss goodbye.